Her eclectic musical style and idiosyncratic vocals have made Kate Bush one of the UK's most loved and enigmatic performers. Having just released her 10th album, 50 Words for Snow, we thought we'd take a look back over her incredible work. Wonderful sights of Kate Bush in all her videos. That was amazing. Are any of you fans of Kate Bush? Like, do you want to put your hand up first of all and say that you absolutely love her? Oh, OK, that's good. We're all in the same club.
Well, I enjoy, especially with Kate Bush, the imaginative and fanciful kind of world that she puts in the music. And for me, it's all about the ideas and working with something creative, creating an other world with the music.
What I think is fascinating, we watch those videos, and I remember, like, Kate, I remember seeing Kate the very first time she did Blue Peter or something like that and thinking, oh, she's a bit strange. Then she went her whole kind of career. She was very unfashionable and people kind of laughed at her, I think, when you see videos and things like Babushka.
Yeah.
She was a bit of a figure of fun at one time, but now she seems completely relevant. Do you think?
Oh, well, maybe we're of a different sort of type here, because I never felt that people laughed at Kate Bush, but maybe we were hanging out in the different pubs.
Did you know Kate? No, but did you know Kate
met
Bush?
Kate, yeah,
Okay.
I have met her socially, very, very briefly, just a couple of times. The one thing I love about her is she's just done it her own way. She hasn't been dictated to, in any sense.
When I say people laughed at her, I think people just thought, oh, my God, she's just so way out there. I don't get what she's doing with that Army Dreamers kind of thing.
What you're saying is that now, looking back on it, you realise that she was spearheading, pushing boundaries, and actually how innovative and how actually there's such a terrible lack of innovation. In a way, I'm not saying it's completely, there's a lack of innovation, but with the advent of this very corporate sausage machine that just produces what they think should be popular music, there is a lack, because they've all got to toe a certain line and conform to a certain ideology, whereas Kate Bush is just untouchable.
Tim, what do you think of Kate Bush then
Well,
now? When you were watching those videos, what did you think?
I think what part of me thinks, although I do think there's a malevolent sort of undertone to the corporatisation of music and the X Factor and all that, that's just pop, and that's what teenage girls watch, and teenage girls or teenage boys have always just consumed the pop. If you want to find interesting, eccentric, good music, you can find it like that. You just look, it's everywhere, and everyone these days, although the record companies and stuff do have control, I've never ever signed a record deal or a publishing deal. I've never done a studio album in my life, and I do concerts to 5,000 to 10,000 people, you know, because of YouTube. I put my own stuff out there, and now people come to my shows. And I think it's easy to get depressed by the corporatisation, but I just do not engage.
Kate only toured once, didn't she? She only did one tour. Was she missing out, do you think, on a rich experience of being a musician?
Well,
or not?
Ask Hello, who's on the end of 18 months of touring.
Yeah.
I mean, isn't it exciting being on the road and doing these performances and the incredible highs that you get?
In the very beginning, it's really exciting, and then it becomes very normal, and then it's not so exciting anymore. But the good thing about it is you get to, you know, make a lot of people happy when you're on stage, and you get to experiment more and more on stage. I think that's what she missed out on, was the experimentation that you get to do live in front of, you know, many people, and the fear, but that beautiful feeling of that fear, the adrenaline of not knowing if it's going to turn out right, you know, and not being such a control freak about having it recorded and then presented.
Yeah, well, you know, being a live performer, and I've performed thousands and thousands of gigs all around the world. I know the edge of it, and I know how that impacts upon one's life. I had a huge decade, well, 2 decades of doing that, and I hit my 30s, and as a woman, that's the difference, the gender thing. I mean, for a man, I think it's a lot more straightforward, but for women, when they hit their 30s, start thinking, oh, I love to have a family, I want to have a normal life, you know, which is what happened to me. I just thought, I'm just consumed by this thing. So, I mean, the idea that Kate only toured once to me is extraordinary. And think about how well-known she is, despite the fact she's only toured once.
Quite incredible.
You know,
different
strokes for different folks.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm often... I haven't been touring for years and years, and certainly not in that sort of way. But touring for me is like a holiday. If you don't love playing live, don't get stuck in it, because it will ruin your life and you'll end up on drugs, and that's what happens. I get fear when I'm creating a new show, especially with comedy, where there's no... You know when you failed because they don't laugh. And so for me, writing comedy is incredibly stressful.
That's scary.
And once I've got a show that I like and I'm on the road, I'm like, woo, now this is the easy bit, you know, in a way. In a way, touring's the easy bit, but then it becomes relentless.
Well, you're in the bubble, aren't you? You're in the bubble.
Yeah, that's
You're
right.
in the zone of the tour.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, it's now time for our first live music of anyone around at the moment doing that kind of thing.
I bet there's millions of them. It's just...
They're not necessarily in the mainstream, but there are people that are doing it that are not getting recognized, but they're doing some fantastic, amazing kind of...
Like who?
And there's an artist that I became aware of who plays the harp. Her name is Joanna Newsom. And it's not as eccentric as, of course, the Talking Heads or Kate Bush, but her message and the lyrics that she's singing are very fanciful and dreamy, otherworldly.
If you want to see eccentricity and commitment to art, you've got to look at jazz. I mean, or even, I don't know if you've heard of Soweto Kinch, who does spoken word. I mean, there's just whole worlds that most people never open the door to. And if you want to find that, you go to contemporary classical or contemporary jazz, and suddenly the Talking Heads and Kate Bushes of this world look pretty bloody boring, you know, because that is where... Not really, but you know, I mean, relatively, they're not outside. You know, you want to see outside, go classical and jazz.
Yeah. Do you think there's any room for them with the way pop music is at the moment, the way it's so mainstream, that seems to be the majority of what people want at the moment?
I wonder if we're coming to maybe this mega push of mega pop, these record companies putting out huge artists, Rihanna and the X Factor and stuff, is actually the death throes of the gatekeepers, because it's being squeezed into this little version of what popular music is. And meanwhile, there's this absolutely infinite land of independently created music on the internet, available to everyone if you know where to look. And maybe
but isn't that the problem of enough people hearing about that whole tidal wave?
I don't know, how will that'll
complex.
develop over time,
But
how
you
we
see,
find out.
Also, for record companies, it's those big artists that make those mega bucks of money that they can actually sort of reinvest in hopefully developing new talent. And the problem is that they're
no
very
development
reticent to
going on
develop
there.
new
Yeah,
talent.
well,
So
I've
there's
never
no
met
A&R.
in my experience, rather bitter experience of the record industry, A&R people just these days, because their jobs are so fragile, they just sit there waiting for something really obvious. And if they see someone with an amazing, interesting voice and an interesting worldview, they go, oh, good luck with that on the internet. Now, where's the, you know, like...
It's true.
Let's talk about the city, because obviously Talking Heads came out of New...
A 23-year-old English chanteuse made history last week when she became the first female singer to be the top-selling artist, have the top-selling album and the top-selling single of the year. The song is Rolling in the Deep, the album 21, and the artist is unmistakably Adele. This month, 21 hit 3.4 million sales, becoming the biggest selling album of the century. It was Amy Winehouse's LP Back to Black that had previously held that honour, a position that was achieved following her tragic and untimely death in July. This week, her posthumous album, Lioness, Hidden Treasures, entered the charts at #1, further confirming the singer's iconic status. While the songwriting of Adele and Winehouse focused on the intimate, there was one songwriter whose outward-looking musings earned her a gold album and the prestigious Mercury Prize. Let England Shake is PJ Harvey's 10th studio LP. The world of opera experienced a number of interesting modern influences. Filmmaker and former Monty Python cast member Terry Gilliam directed a hit production of Berlioz's Damnation of Faust for English National Opera. Fellow filmmaker Mike Figgis tackled lust and larceny in Lucrezia Borgia. More lust in the Royal Opera House's Anna Nicole, which told the true story of a young Playboy model, an octogenarian billionaire husband, intrusive media fascination, and a tragically early death. Perhaps the most innovative creation of 2011 is Björk's multimedia project Biophilia, the world's first app album. Ending a successful 30-year run, REM announced they would be splitting up. And as one legendary act called it a day, another returned with new material. Kate Bush announced an all-new studio album, 50 Words for Snow. You're not a Langor monkey. 2011 proved music fans still want to support their favourite acts, even in this age of downloading where YouTube hits mean more than physical album sales, as the internet sensation Lana Del Rey proved with the song Video Games, which currently has over 10 million hits. But what does this mean for the future?
It's you.